This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek, and I'm talking today with Wren Bradley. She's with SEIU 521, chapter chair and a child welfare worker. Wren, you recently went to North Carolina to participate in poll watching and to try to protect the rights of black communities there. Why don't you talk about your experience, why you went down, why you thought it was important, and what happened down there?
Well, I think when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, it just occurred to me, or I finally had the revelation that I needed to go somewhere and work out my frustration with our system. And I looked to a battleground state where I could figure I'd make a difference. And I went to North Carolina. I was there for 2 weeks, and I was a poll greeter in some of the rural areas of North Carolina, which the rural areas are somewhat more of the poorer areas, and some of the areas where it's more populated with African ancestry folks and Latinos. So I was sent to work there because I do speak Spanish, and so I could help people if they were wanting to vote, if they needed any guidance, if they needed any help, and just to make sure that they were able to vote, that they didn't run into any problems at the poll once they got there. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I told the party there that I would do whatever they needed me to do because it was just important for me to be in a battleground state where I felt like I could make a difference.
And did you go by yourself or with other people who joined you?
No, I went by myself. I literally looked up the day after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. I looked up tickets. I bought a ticket to North Carolina, and I just went. And so I was by myself. I walked in, and I had emailed them ahead of time, told them I was coming, and I walked into the headquarters there, and they put me right to work. They just, there were people there from England. There were people there, other people from California that I met. There were people from Buffalo, New York that were there. They had a lot of people coming in from all over the country and out of the country to help on the race in North Carolina. So I wasn't the only one. I went by myself, but I met lots of kindred souls when I was there.
And what was it like? I mean, what were concerns did the people that you met with have about the election, about the rise of Trump and Trumpism, and what it means to the people in that area?
Well, I mean, so for instance, I'll just give you this really horrific example. I was at one of the poll watching sites with, I call her Sister Gloria, who's African-American. We were talking to somebody. We were talking to people, to see, if they needed help or guidance on voting. And these white folks told her to go back to the plantation. And I was just shocked, horrified. How could this be in the United States of America that any person would feel that they could say that with their privilege? And the woman the Sister Gloria said, I've heard way worse than that, Wren, here in North Carolina. And I said, well, this is exactly why we've got to have we cannot have Trump in the White House. This is exactly what he is spewing and why these racist things are happening in this country. We had other people in line who called us baby killers, who said that we were child molesters, that we had, children in our basements and that we were molesting them. A lot of these people were the QAnon people that you hear about. I'd honestly never met anybody like that before, but I met them in North Carolina. So they didn't have any bones about yelling and screaming in the lines when people are trying to vote. They were extremely intimidating. At one of the sites, we had an attorney who told us that they tried to close the polls early, and she stepped up. She's with the ACLU. She stepped up, and she forced them to keep the poll open. So that was good. And honestly, we ran into a lot of people that were intimidated, but we told we'd stay right there with them and make sure that they were able to vote and not to be intimidated by these people that were yelling and screaming at them in line. So I felt like I made a difference just by my mere presence there to be a witness to this, to some of the stuff that we saw. But at the end of the day, at the sites that I went to, everybody, including those that were voting for Trump, had the right to vote, and so everybody got into the polls. What was really sad is that they don't have, if you are a disabled person, they don't make any arrangements for that, so you have to stand in line just like everybody else. So we had people in wheelchairs, with walkers, with canes. We offered them chairs. We offered them umbrellas when it was raining. They don't have what we have in California, where we can, vote by mail and then put the ballot into a box. They don't have that there. So, and if, a lot of these people are poor folk, so they said, well, why can't you go through the drive-by? Well, they don't have a car. People drop them off, so they had to wait in line for 3 hours to vote, some of these disabled folks. And, of course, I would say the majority of the disabled folks were all African-American, and I tell you, they stood proud and stood strong. They were not going to be deterred by all the stumbling blocks and barriers that were put in place by the state of North Carolina. So it was an eye-opening experience for me to realize that in California we have so many more privileges, and now we just have to work to make sure that every state has the same privileges that we do in California.
And, 50 years ago, people were fighting for the right to vote in the South, the restrictions. Are you surprised that, again, now there's open intimidation, threats? There was just the even against the Biden bus, where they tried to run it off the road, and Trump is defending that, which is illegal, an act of intimidation.
Yeah, I can't. Am I surprised? I am surprised, but I'm not surprised. I don't know what to say. How Trump ever ended up in the White House to begin with is still shocking to me. But our country is, we've taken 50 steps back instead of 50 steps forward in our country. So it's up to every one of us to do what we possibly can. I jumped out there. I went for 2 weeks. I took vacation to go and do it because I felt like it was my moral obligation to make a difference.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. Take care.